Hello, welcome to Forest Focus. Nottingham Forest players return for a pre-season training today as the squad slowly takes shape with Elliott Anderson in and Odysseas Vlachodimos, Orel, Mangala and Moussa Niakhate out, along with the players who left the end of last season. But who else is coming in and for what kind of money? Forest have again been linked with Jake O'Brien, the Lyon defender who's valued as a potentially convenient 30 million, while Carlos Miguel looks set to finally sign this week. We'll discuss the shape of the squad and possible deal to stay at the City ground in the company of, first of all, former Reds defender Kelvin Wilson. Kelv, good to have you with us today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good.
Good to have you with us, as I said. Second guest is Michael Temple. Temps, how are you?
I'm fine. Someone's just fired up a jet washer outside my window, so I'm going to go and close that while you introduce Mikey.
Third guest, as mentioned, is Mikey Clarke. No one jet washing outside your window, Mikey, or anything, I hope. How are you?
There isn't. No, I'm good, thank you. It's good to be back. It feels like I've not been on for a few weeks. So, yeah, it's good to be back.
No, you haven't been on for a few weeks, so I'll probably start with you. And we'll kick off with Jake O'Brien, who we've discussed a little bit, but gathered a little bit of pace over the weekend. Report in The Sun saying that he'd quite like to join Everton for 20 million, but Lyon want 30 million, and it's reported that Forest might go to that price with the clubs on good terms after recent business, it says. Obviously, that's referring to Niakhate and Mangala for good fees. There's also a report in French media saying the Athletic report that Forest will pay 35 million euros, but I just couldn't find that anywhere. But there is that report in The Sun. What do you think about it all, Mikey? We've obviously done very good business with Lyon. Is it a bit of back scratching? Can we justify the fee for the player? That's difficult to say because we haven't seen much of him, but just in principle.
Well, it's certainly an area that we need to strengthen, isn't it? I think we are down on numbers in that area and could even be further down if Murillo goes. So definitely the area they're looking at. I like his profile. I've admit not seen a great deal of him. Certainly like his profile. Looks a big lad. Seen a few clips and whatever you can get from clips, but he seems comfortable with the ball at his feet, likes to switch it. In terms of the fee, it is a lot, isn't it? But I think the words you used there, Matt, were quite apt. I hate to use the phrase back scratching, but it does feel like we got a remarkable deal for the two players that went to Lyon. And perhaps, although this would be classed as a separate transfer, perhaps there was an overarching agreement with Lyon to say, look, we may slightly increase the actual fee, but it benefits us both. And at the end, you net it off, you zero it off. So essentially, it could be a bit of our turn to sort of scratch their back. But in terms of his profile, I like him. Like I said, I don't know a great deal about him, but from what I've seen, he looks like a half-decent player. Ceiling's obviously very high. He's a young lad. And it's, like I said, an area that we need to strengthen. So I think you've got to give a bit of credit and a bit of positive thought around our recruitment so far and what we look to be doing. And I think with that in mind, I've got a lot of confidence that if he is one of those that we've earmarked to bring in and a position that we need, that he'll fit the bill. So, yeah, let's just see how it transpires. My only slight worry is that, you know, if Everton are thinking 20 million and West Ham are thinking that's slightly too high and we go in at 30 or 35, is there further conversations to be had from the authorities to say, you know, what's going on here? But it does look like a lot of clubs are going down that route to say, look, we maybe slightly overinflated prices for a player, but at the end you net it off and it suits both parties. So we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, in terms of the player, he looks all right.
I've done the dreaded thing, Kelvin, of looking at him on YouTube, and he's massive. He's quite thin, not like massive, like you know yourself, I guess, but his build is quite lean. He kind of plays like Bolly, good in the air, seems to read the game well, and he's got a decent range of passing. Like I say, it's the dreaded 8-minute YouTube clip. But is that the kind of player you think we need? That kind of old school, younger version of Bolly?
Well, it's definitely a position where we need to strengthen, without a doubt. The back scratching comment, I don't think we're in any position to be scratching anyone's back. I think we need to just concentrate on the player, really. You know, don't just bring him in to do a favour because they've signed two players at a good fee. I don't know. I've not heard of him. I've not seen anything of him. But I'm surely with the past, with bringing players in at Forest, they've done the homework on him. and is a player that probably, with his stats, surely they've looked at them, ticks a lot of boxes. It's by the sounds of it, he sounds a good size, a good. He likes to play, but again, don't know much about him. Definitely a position, like we say, we need to bring players in. For me, obviously bringing in foreign players, it's great, but I think British players, especially down the core of your team, is important. If you look at all the top sides, they always have the core of the sides, like their homegrown players kind of thing. You look at, I know it's obviously different scale, but Barcelona, Real Madrid, they always have the core of the team through the national, where the players are from, that country. Same with England, you look at Chelsea and Arsenal in the past years, Man U, it's always the core of the players are British. So I think that's a massive thing. Just for the league, I think the league's, it's a very hard league and players understand it. But it's definitely a position where we need to strengthen. Hopefully they've done a little bit of homework on these players, because with Forest, the turnover of players in the last couple of years has been a joke, really. So hopefully they've done the homework and he does tick the boxes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's had a good season in France. Hasn't played in the Premier League, but obviously he was at Palace, so he knows English football well, and he's developing as an Irish international. What do you think about the market in general, Temps? We've seen Max Kilman going for 40 million. Good player, but 27, never played for England. It's a bit of a mad market at the moment. Is this the transfer fees almost irrelevant, or can they not be, because we could be back in a month scrounging for PSR, as have been?
I'm still trying to reframe the numbers. I was interested hearing some of my Notts County supporting friends talking about what they think they're going to get from Macaulay Langstaff, and it's outlandish at that level, let alone the Premier League. I'm not convinced yet we've seen a straight transfer where a fee has been negotiated between two clubs for a player with no thought to who's going the other way or what the PSR calculation is. So I think we'll see that now in this period. Although there is clearly a trading link with Lyon. I like what I've seen of O'Brien. Seems to defend the near post really well. There's plenty of clips of him timing his arrivals at corners, attacking corners, bundled a few goals in there. Big physical presence, but calm on the ball. Looks to play out. Range of passing just shy of Murillo, but certainly not afraid of a diag or finding an advancing wing back, and seems really comfortable on the ball. So like the profile of him. Is he worth the money? He must be, because that's what the market's telling us that he's worth. But these numbers are just crazy now. It's insane to me that the Vlachodimos number, the Niakhate number, but as we said before, they're framed in a different way, and we're yet to see a straight transfer fee for based on the value of the player rather than some fandangled PSR calculation.
True. Yeah, he did seem to read the near post well. I did see that video. 275 people with us, which is great. Do us a favour, if you haven't already, hit like on the video. That would be a great help. Let's talk about Murillo, because he fits into the conversation. Because I think it would annoy some fans saying he's going to go, but I do think he probably will go. We discussed these quotes the other day, but I'll put it to these chaps, and particularly Kelvin, to get a player's point of view on it. When he's talking about his future, some quotes in Brazil, these are, people probably heard them, but I'll read them out again. I choose Man City. This is about signing for other clubs. I should qualify, sorry. I choose Man City, but it would be more difficult for me to be a regular starter, given the players they have in their squad. There's City, Arsenal as well, who are fighting for the Premier League title. I wouldn't discard Liverpool either. It'd be a good opportunity for me to show my football in a big club. We don't know anything for certain. The window opened last month, so I'm going to return to Nottingham Forest for pre-season. There might be some discussions on whether I stay or not. There's a lot of things to happen still, but I'm relaxed. So I'll get Kelvin's player point of view shortly, but just quickly, what about the fan point of view, Mikey? Some fans are quite narked by it. I think, were you a bit narked by openly discussing other clubs yourself?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. When I read the comments, my initial view was that doesn't read great, but then sort of 30 seconds later, you take into account the fact that he's not English. There is that translation thing, and he's probably just been asked an open and honest question. He's a young lad, and he's probably just been said, he's probably just been asked, where of all these clubs would you like to? And he's tried to answer as honestly as he can. I think I'm not one to get emotionally attached to players or anything these days, just because of what Kelvin says. The turnover, especially at Forest, is insane. So it's not maybe like it was sort of 15, 20 years ago when you fall in love with a team and that team stays together for a number of years, like when Kelvin was playing with Lewis and everybody like that. It's very different now. So my initial reaction wasn't great, but like I said, 30 seconds later, I was okay with it. And I think you have to remember, we hold the cards here. So, the guy is on a long-term deal with us. We've looked after him. He's showcasing his skills, and every game he plays for us is beneficial to us and him. So it's in everybody's interest that he keeps still performing if he stays with us, and therefore his value will rocket, or it certainly won't get any less. So we hold the cards. We haven't had to sell prior to the deadline for a cheap price. We've managed to navigate a way around that to tick that PSR box. And now, like I said, we hold the cards. So I'm okay with his comments. He obviously wants to better himself. And I think if we're smart about it, I'm sure Temps will say this, if we're smart about it, we can use it to our advantage to maybe create a bit of a conversation with numerous clubs to say, look at his ceiling. He knows this for himself. We know it. The eye test tells it. What's he worth? So I'd be very interested to see what happens in the next couple of months. But like I say, Forest are in a really strong position here.
What do you think about it, Temps, before I come to Kelvin? Is Mikey right? It's about leverage and negotiating the best deal if he is to go?
We're going to get a bid in this transfer window that's going to test our resolve with Murillo. But the nice position that we're in now is that when they come in with their first test, their first prod at 40, 45 million, we can laugh it out the door. And that's because of the manner in which we've conducted our business pre-PSR. A lot of people, me included, wrongly thought he was going to be sacrificed at a bit of a cut price because that was the obvious saleable player in the squad pre-June the 30th. So absolute credit to Forest for getting us through that point. I think on balance of probability now, he does go before the window closes, but there is a world in which he stays for one more season. The player's stated his ambition to play at a bigger club, which is fine. I don't mind that. If he's motivated to do that, we've seen already, he doesn't shy away from the big games, relishes the challenges against bigger players. He admittedly had a stinking 10 minutes against Haaland when he was clearly injured and unwilling to be substituted at that point. But that aside, I don't think he shirked anything. I think we all know that he ends up at a bigger club, and he didn't grow up with a Forest poster on his wall. So he's here as for a step in his career. I don't think at the start of the season he necessarily thought he was going to play 30 games for Forest in the Premier League. And it was a little while, wasn't it, before he came in for that surprise debut. So we're in a nice position now. If he goes, it's for 55, 60 million plus, with all kinds of clauses in there to make sure we realise his value over time. He's replaceable in the sense that he's not the guy we're building the team around. That remains Morgan Gibbs-White, and there will be other centre halves that we can bring in who can help us to establish ourselves in the Premier League. But there is now a world in which we get more game time out of Murillo, and I'll be really interested to see how that develops.
So from the player's point of view then, Kelvin, is this a bit naive, do you think, just to come out and start reading clubs off in the media? Because I guess every player in the dressing room, realistically, if Man City come in, like yourself, you'd want to go there, wouldn't you? I don't think that's to blame them particularly, but is it a bit naive to start reading clubs off in the media?
I think it's massively naive from him. He's obviously a young boy. He's not English, so obviously speaking in Brazil, and he's being honest. Obviously, he's got to realise he's got to come back. I think his agent has probably told him what to say, his management team. It's kind of, for me as a player, and I've played with players in the same position, and it's kind of forcing yourself out. He's probably had meetings with the manager and the chief exec at Forest, and they've probably said, you're not going anywhere. You're staying. You're a massive part of this team. And he's probably gone away, and his agent has basically said the only way to get out now is to force your way out. And them comments there are exactly that. I think to say that you'd want to join these teams and you prefer this team over this team, but you'd still consider Liverpool. Wow, that's massive statements from him. He's a confident boy, obviously. But I think it was really naive of him to say that, especially before any deal's done. What's going on behind closed doors, we don't know. Obviously he knows more than us and his agent and stuff. But I think from his agent's side and his management team, whatever it may be, it's really naive of him. He should have just come back for pre-season, said that he's the Nottingham Forest player, and the power's in their hands. That's what he should have said. But obviously he's come out, he's a confident boy, and he's for me as a player, and I'm sure other players will say it, he's trying to force the Forest's hand to move on.
Yeah, two other things I want to pick your brain about, kind of following up from that. Within a dressing room, how much do players talk about transfers? If there was interest in you or one of the other teammates of the lads talking about it, or is it completely ignored?
No, you talk about it 100%. Obviously rumours are in the papers and stuff, and players look at social media and paper and the papers. And you're asked, I remember when I was coming back to Forest from Celtic, a lot of the Celtic boys was like, are you going? Are you going back down south? And you talk about it and you let out what you want to let out to the players, because they're going to then get on the phone to their agent and say, yeah, he's off, and people asking. So you be careful what you say to players, because they do go and chat elsewhere as well. But yeah, definitely, players will be talking in the changing rooms. Even Gibbs White, I'm sure players have messaged him over the summer, are you off? What are you doing? Are you staying? So yeah, it does get spoke about a lot. A lot of players talk about, even if they want to go, some players that aren't playing, they'll be like, yeah, I'm trying to get a move. I want to get out. So-and-so are interested. I spoke to this manager. Because again, players, you speak to managers as well, even though you're contracted. I know it's not supposed to happen, but it happens. I did before I came back to Forest. I spoke to Leicester, Nigel Pearson, and these things happen. You speak to managers, and your agent speaks to managers and chief executives. So it happens. This is why I think with Murillo, he's probably got a little bit of inside information that these clubs are really keen on him, and for him to get this move, he's got to kind of force it a little bit as well, because I'm sure Forest will stand firm and want a good fee, especially with the fees that are going around now as well. Murillo's definitely, like Tem said, has gone up to 55-60 million plus, I think. But it could work out good for Forest as well. If he's going to go to the likes of Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, there's players there that probably aren't playing as well, so they could come the other way. So there's a lot of things that could come good for Nottingham Forest as well from a transfer of Murillo.
Murillo for Grealish, Kelv.
With his new hair, and seen
that. Definitely, I think a lot of Forest fans would, but I very, very much doubt that.
Just lastly, as well, on the media and players, obviously, you played up in Scotland. It's a pressure cooker environment. How are you around the media? How do players view the media in general? Especially, it's not so bad at Forest, but when you're playing for a club like Celtic, are you super guarded around the media with every word you say if you put up, Kelv?
Yeah, without a doubt. You're not allowed to speak to them unless you're given permission. Social media, I remember Neil Lennon banning quite a few players from social media because they was posting too much. So it's massive up there with teams like that. And I'm guessing down here with teams like your Man Cities and your Arsenals, I'm sure they have a strict policy on that as well with the players. But yeah, up at Celtic, it was obviously a fishbowl. Celtic Rangers are the big two. So there was a lot of media coverage on that, especially when players were linked with other teams. But Forest are now in the Premier League, so it's pretty much the same down here as well. As soon as players have a decent season, a good season like Murillo and your Gibbs Whites, there's always going to be speculation over these players. And I'm sure the club have spoke to these players. I'm sure Murillo's been pulled in and said, you shouldn't have really said this. I'm more than sure. But he's a young boy as well, so there's a lot of learning for him to do. But I think his agent has probably been in his ear, to be quite honest with you, or his management team, whatever it may be. But I don't think that's strictly come from him. I don't think, it'd be that. I know he's young, but you wouldn't be that naive to say, like, you've got the pick of the bunch, really. I'm sure that's come from his agent to tell him who's interested in him.
Yeah, definitely. We'll come back to pre-season plug-in today. So Murillo had a word in his ear, I don't know, from the media team, but we'll come back to that just before we do a word for the Trent Nav. Excuse me. It is Trent Nav Fest on Saturday the 13th of July from 2 p.m. You can see the list of the bands who are playing there, including the Tryst, who are one of the organisers of it, raising money for charity. So to get your tickets, just search NavFest on gigantic.com. That's Trent NavFest on the 13th of July. So thanks to Nav for their support. Obviously, loads of people were down there at the weekend enjoying the England win. Just quickly on that England win, we discussed it last week. No one seemed to mind us doing 5 minutes of England, so we'll do it again. I'll ask Temps, because Mikey's in the same mindset as me. Do I need to just lighten up, Temps, and just enjoy it more? I find myself watching these games, tearing my hair out. Where's the subs? Where's the sub Southgate? And actually, we won. We're in another semi-final, and he deserves credit for building a team that keeps getting to these semi-finals. So do I just need to lighten up and enjoy the ride a bit more?
Well, Southgate's getting no credit, is he? Because it looks like he's put the lads in handcuffs that are playing. But there's so much talent in that side that I think you've got to let the brakes off. And Sven had this phrase, didn't he, about daring to lose? And what he means by that is taking risks, commit your fullbacks, let John Stones stride out, let Bellingham cheat for 10, 15 minutes in the game. But also, when you've got weapons like Anthony Gordon on your bench, you want to be coming on running at tired fullbacks and broken fields. Do it in more than 5 minutes to go and make those positive changes. I think there's a more... He'd be forgiven for making a positive substitution that didn't pay off. I think if we were goalless after 70 minutes, rather than going down the extra time route, he'd be forgiven for trying something and not quite paying off. But everyone's just taking from having watched these performances that the lads are somehow being restrained and restricted in their patterns and not bombing on. I just felt it's such a simple tactic. Every time Bukayo Saka had the ball, he impacted the game. But we did nothing like enough to manufacture possession for him to stand up his fullback, who was in treacle after 10 minutes, would have easily been on a first half yellow card if we'd have fed Bukayo Saka more than we did. And he pops up with that crucial goal. I think just when there's such an obvious mismatch in a game, just manufacture a bit more. So yeah, he's not gaining plaudits, is he? If he gets to if he makes the final and he even wins it, I think the narrative will be it was despite Southgate rather than because of him. I can't explain that. And the other thing I can't explain is what is Harry Kane doing? His average position was something akin to a central defensive midfielder. Popped up far too many times on the edge of his own box. There was a moment in the first half where he cleared a ball to a gap where he should have been standing, which I thought was quite poetic, really. But we need a striker that can pin a centre half. We need to be willing to play two strikers at the same time. We've got so many positive subs that just need time to impact the game, and we need to let the brakes off a bit, because whilst we've managed to claw our way through against inferior opposition, I think that the other half of the draw looks likely to produce the winner at this moment in time. And I really hope I'm wrong. And there's a world in which we play badly against the Netherlands and get through to the final. But my plea to Gareth would be to allow the players to express themselves and display more attacking intent, because whilst the results have been positive, the performances have been far short of what we're capable of.
What do you make of it, Kel, before I come to Mikey? When you see Derek points out in the comments, you see corners going back to the goalkeeper and weird things happening, but then, we're winning penalty shootouts that when we were growing up, we couldn't, players were missing the target, and now there's like ice in the veins for all 5 of them. Where do you stand on the whole England debate?
It just looks so negative for whatever reason. I don't know. Like Temps has just said, Harry Kane is so deep. I don't know what it is. I think you look at your Stones, your Walkers, your Fodens, and even Declan Rice. These players have been unbelievable all season for the clubs. They look a shell of a player compared to what they have been for whatever reason. Especially Kyle Walker. I'm a massive fan of him. I think he's England's best ever right back. I think he's the best right back in the world, even at his age. But he's been miles off it for whatever reason. You can talk about tiredness, but I don't think the adrenaline will be running through the players. It's a big tournament. I'm sure they'll be fine. But the negativity and the performances it's been really strange. I don't know if, well, I do know it's obviously going to come from the coaching staff. Gareth Southgate would have given instructions to play like this. But we can only talk, we're just fans really, we're watching. But as a manager, it's a dream to have them players. Grealish didn't even get in the squad. Wow. You've got players at your disposal who can turn the game on its head. The subs, yeah, I agree. Making subs with a minute to go, couple of minutes to go, and Ivan Toney, I think it's screaming out for him to start. He can hold the ball up. He's physical. He can run in behind. Gordon as well. To even bring him on at 60th minute, things like this when legs are tired, it's a no-brainer. Well, you think so anyway, but obviously Gareth is sticking to his is very loyal to his players, which we've seen over the years with likes of Maguire and stuff when they've been playing, when they haven't been playing at club level. And it seems like he's doing that now. He's letting players stay on the pitch for probably longer than they deserve at the minute. Harry Kane, I know he's the England captain and he's been unbelievable. The amount of goals he scored is frightening, but he looks, I don't know if he looks tired or if age is catching up with him, but he just looks, he looks way off it as well. So I think to beat the Netherlands and to go on to win it, there's got to be drastic changes, but will Gareth Southgate do it? I honestly don't think he will.
No, I don't think he will. Just quickly, Mikey, before we move on, and I'll start the next topic with you as well. You love an absolutely boring 0-0. Ironically, I don't think you really do, but it's always a joke you make. Are you hating this tournament, or are you just happy we're plodding through?
There's that saying about being a lucky general, isn't there? So for me, he's been dug out by individual moments of brilliance from his players, despite what he's trying to do. I think if it cast my mind back to cricket a few years ago, Temps will know this, my namesake, Michael Clarke, for the Aussies and Shane Warne used to say, are you willing to risk losing the game to win it? And Gareth Southgate is not. He's literally the polar opposite of that. So going back to Temps' point about he'll be forgiven for making a substitution on 17 minutes to try and win it. He won't try and win it. We've seen that. He will react. He's not positive. He's not proactive, sorry. He just reacts. And at the moment, he's getting lucky because of the brilliance of his players. But there will come a time when it's not enough. And you're down to the last four. And I genuinely think we're as good as Holland. And on our day, we're as good as France. Let's hope they beat Spain. So he could be that lucky general that gets us over the line. But in which case, the narrative will still be we won it despite of him. So that's where I am. I just want the brakes taken off, like Kelv says. You've got to give them an opportunity to show what they're all about, because these aren't the players that I've seen all season. Not at all. So let's hope that something changes in the next couple of days.
Getting back to Forest then, just going back to kind of the state of the squad. We've done some really good business thus far, I think. Really happy with what we have done. Carlos Miguel looks like he's going to be officially joining this week as well for I suspect he'll probably end up being the number one ultimately. Just quickly going around the room, start with Mikey. What else are you looking for to be added to the squad before we kick off properly in August? What do we need for you?
Well, I think just for answer that really quickly, I don't think he'll start as number one because I don't think Matt Sells has done anything wrong. So I think Sells will start the season, but I think he's such a formidable presence, isn't he, Miguel? By the look of him, he'll probably get his chance in the cup, and then everyone will go blimey, and he may just by default force his way in. So we'll see what happens. But in terms of strengthening, I think Kelvin hit on a point about the spine of the team being players that understand the league, solid, and you can build around them. So with that said, I'd love to see us get in one or two centre backs, especially if we're going to play three at the back, and also just that pivotal striker up front, because Chris Wood, like I've said before, did brilliant last season, but can you rely on a whole season with him? What is he, sort of mid-30s now? And Taiwo is just constantly injured, isn't he? So I think you probably need to look at that. I think we've got the midfield pieces there, though. So, Elliott Anderson coming in, you've got Sangare, you've got Danilo, you've got Ryan Yates. Gibbs White can drop a bit deeper. I'm not overly concerned about that part at the moment, but I think either end of the pitch is where the games are won, isn't it? So at the back and up front is where I'm looking for us to strengthen. What
about you, Temps?
It'd be so high risk not to sign a striker, because Mikey says there, you've got two players who are effective goal scorers, goals per minute, chance conversion, real good. Can't keep themselves on the park for 25 games, let alone 40 games. So a striker definitely required. And as well as rather than instead of, I know there was a period there where we were probably trying to ship Taiwo, and we thought it was worth the gamble to get him out and bring someone else in. I see a scenario now in which they both stay, and we have a third striker that profiles slightly differently, to have a genuine shoot out for that shirt. I think off the body of work between Christmas and the end of the season, Chris Wood established himself as a meaningful alternative to Tyro rather than the designated backup. So that'll be an interesting battle. We need quality at centre half, don't we? Willy Bolly, I have confidence in. I think he can be improved. I like him as first backup rather than inked-in starter. And I think that there'll be moves afoot, as per the Jake O'Brien whisper, to try and address that. I think we've got another midfielder coming in. I think the Dominguez noise suggests he may well be on his way, and there'll be another option coming in that kind of position. He wasn't really fancied by Nuno, and I can envisage that he's on a list of players that he'd be willing to surrender. Beyond that, I'd echo Mikey's sentiment. Wouldn't it be nice to have a bit of consistency to back Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, Elanga, find that blend of the midfield too? And I think in Nico Williams and Orel, we've got two players coming off the back of real strong seasons with more improvement to come. So I'd echo Mikey's sentiment. Let's get a striker and a centre half through the door that we can be proud of, and concentrate on retaining the key players that we could probably all rattle off in a very similar list right now.
Yeah, centre half for me is the big area. I'd like to see us have a sense of who the pairing is going to be for the next 3 or 4 years. If Murillo goes, obviously I just don't see him playing that many games. So centre half's a big area to strengthen. What about you, Kelvin? If you were looking at adding to the squad today, what more do we need?
Yeah, I agree with Mikey in terms. I think centre forwards first and foremost. I don't think you're going to get a lot of games out of both that we've got in a minute. Tayo and Woods. I think a good solid centre forward. Sorry, I think that's first and foremost. I think followed by centre off. Bolly, yeah, I've praised him last season. I thought he was every time he played, he delivered. He did what he had to do, but you ain't going to get a lot of games out of him either. You know, he's at an age where he will pick up little niggles and he won't be able to play through them. So I think a centre off. I do think it's a massive season for Sangare. I think it's a massive season for him. He's got to step to the table now. You know, it's a big fee that he came for, big experience, big player. You know, he's a big player, especially at Nottingham Forest. So I think there's a lot on him this season to step up. I'm sure Nuno will want him in the team. You know, he's the quality that he brings when he's played elsewhere just hasn't hit the ground running at Forest. So it's a big season for him. At midfield, I think we're fine. You know, there's enough cover. Wide players, yeah, backup players to them because they do pick up niggles as well. Are you going to get 25, 30 games out of them? I doubt it. So, you know, you need someone to be able to come and step in there. A bit of pace to match them when they're not playing. But my main concern would be a centre forward. That's for me the important one. And obviously at centre half, if Murillo goes, that's a must as well.
A couple of people in the comments, Calvin, mentioning Kelechi Iheanacho, who was sort of linked with us and Villa last week. Very intelligent player, but hasn't really ever had that big run for Leicester apart from one season. On a free transfer, would you say yes to him, or is he not sufficiently of the quality that we need?
Yeah, not for me. No, I think it would be, is it Origi? It would be that kind of signing. I just don't think, just not for me. No disrespect to the player. You know, he's a good player. He's played at a good standard, good clubs, but I just think the player that we need to get in is someone hungry and who wants to play, not just to pick up wages, etc. You know, not that I'm saying that he's going to do that, but I think with that kind of player coming in, it's a bit like an Origi signing. Just, if I'm going to be honest, my honest opinion, pointless.
Just really briefly then, what about you, Temps and Mikey, starting with Temps, just on Iheanacho?
Like, nobody wants to be called the next Origi, do they? I think that's the moniker nobody wants. I echo what Kel says about Sangare as well. I think we're all desperate for that to work. Nothing to make any of us happier than him proving to be the player that we thought he was. But no, Iheanacho, not for me. The room I've been most excited about, having dug into it, is Reece Nelson. I think that's the calibre of player that we want to get in, and Iheanacho would be a pass for me.
Mikey, just briefly.
Yeah, 3 out of 3. For the exact same reasons. I think we've got to look to try and get a an upgrade in. I don't think he's an upgrade on what we have, to be honest. I think if you're struggling to get in Leicester's team in the Championship, and 37-year-old Jamie Vardy's keeping you out the team, I think that probably says everything you need to know. So no, not for me.
Very good, very good. Live scouting report has come in on Jake O'Brien from Chris Aylmer, from who's on here regularly. Obviously Irish, so loves his Irish players. He's spoken to a mate of his who used to play as a centre back in the League of Ireland, called Evan McMullen, who is a fan of his. Decent with his feet for a big man. That's proper scouting cliche. I absolutely love that. Immensely very, very confident. Always thought he'd go abroad. And he's done that was always expected. But then also he spoke to and said he's outstripped expectation in Ireland. He was one of their best players this season. So there's people who've seen a bit of him. So obviously, a talented young player who's maybe gone a little bit faster than expected on his development. Right, let's talk for how long's Temps got? Temps has got about 10 minutes or so till he's got to disappear. We'll probably fit most of the chat in there. Just quickly on Forest players coming back for pre-season. I just wanted to pick your brains about that first day back, Kelvin. What's it like, and what kind of fitness levels do players come back with in terms of match fitness? Is it like 50% and you've done a bit of cardio in between drinking and partying in Ibiza, or have you done a lot more than that?
Well, I'll start. It's horrible. That first day is horrible. You just think, oh, here we go. You tick over. Yeah, you'll be given a program over the summer. Each player will get a program. Obviously different players need different, levels of fitness. Centre half won't need the same as a fullback because you won't run as much. So, the sports science guys will give you programs, and you have to kind of stick to them really. And they expect a certain level of fitness when you come back. So your first day, it's a lot of just testing. Really, you're getting all your new training kit and things, and you're just doing tests really, just on your weight, your body fat, etc. And then the week will just go into then testing on like things like bleep tests, and I remember when we was at Forest, we'd go down to the university for a day and go on the treadmills with a mask where it takes your highest heart rate and stuff like that, resting heart rate and things like this. So the first week will be a lot of testing and just seeing where you're at. But you do tick over, yeah. I think especially now, even when I was playing, you had to do it to a good level. But now it's a different level, especially with Forest being in the Premier League as well. So I'm sure you see the players now, they go on holiday to Dubai and Marbella and all these places, but they're doing training at proper training camps as well. So I think it's a lot different now, and I think the players will come back in good shape. They will have ticked over and they would have stuck to their fitness programs. But the main thing in pre-season, and the managers, they make that clear to you all the time, don't get injured. If you feel a little niggle, pull out. And you always get that from every manager that I played under, because the last thing a manager wants is to start the season with 2-3 plus injuries. So, players just get through pre-season, and you never want to miss pre-season as well. I know a lot of people might think, oh, I bet people throw in they've got an injury so they don't have to do the running. You don't. You want to get fit, so you're fit for the season, start of the season, and you want to start the season as well, because it's tough getting into a side, especially if the side starts well. You're looking, thinking, when am I going to get my chance? And you think, was it all a waste of time? Keeping fit over the summer. So yeah, I just think the main thing, and Nuno will make that as an experienced manager, is just don't get no injuries.
Kelvin, Lewis told us there was a particular method of leaning on the wall at the Forest training ground to take a couple of pounds off on the way in. Did you ever use that trick?
Temps, I look like I needed that, mate. It was the Wes Morgans and Lewis McGugans and Dele Adebolas of this world needed that. I was okay. I wasn't in the. I remember Billy Davies used to call it the fat club. So if you was over a certain weight or a certain body fat, these players had to come in extra early every morning and do fat burners. So Lewis being Lewis, he sussed out the scales were near a windowsill. So, and the sports scientists that will take the weight stood this side, and the windowsill was this side. So if you put 2 fingers on the windowsill, you could take a little bit of weight off but Lewis he knew every trick to get away with either running or obviously scamming his weight.
Here's a quick one as well that I'll throw you down. Do you ever get fined if you come back unfit? Question from Sci-Fi Monkey there.
You don't get fined if you come back unfit, but you get fined for your weight, and that's hence why Lewis found out the trick, the Windowsill trick, because Billy Davies used to fine you, I think it was 50 quid for every kilo you was over. So you had lads taking hot baths in the morning, trying to sweat it out and things like that. Some of the tricks was unreal, but I was lucky enough not to do that. But yeah, some managers, they do, but all the way through the season, not just for pre-season. You know, Billy Davies liked to weigh you 2 or 3 times a week, and if you're over, you'd get fined. And then, like I say, if training started at 10 o'clock, you would have to be in at 8:30 to do fat burners.
Magic. Love it. Great insight. Let's just talk before we have to go around the City Ground situation. It looks like there'll be an announcement this week, hopefully, to say that Forest are staying, whether it's freehold or lease, but it should allow, touch wood, the development of the stadium to make it a 40,000 more modern stadium to go forwards. You've always said this would be the case, Temps. You really stuck to your guns. I was more uncertain than you, and I think that, you know, Totem seemed like a genuine option a couple of months ago. But if this all goes to plan and they do make this announcement either today or by the end of the week, I assume you're feeling happy and, you know, not quite I told you so, but slightly vindicated.
Yeah, they were always going to stay. There's just too much history, too much feeling in that place. Oozes football soul, as Steve Cooper said. I don't think I've heard it articulated any better than that. And it will ooze that a little bit more when there's 40,000 seats there. And I cycled past the City Ground the other day, actually, and there's so much going on. They're building this little hospitality section for Mr. Marinakis. He's got his own lift shaft and everything else. Filling in the corners, the safe standings there. They've moved the screen to get more seats in. There's a lot of work going in to make small improvements around the edges, but they want to redevelop the Peter Taylor stand. We've all seen that picture, and I think we'd all feel a sense of pride when the main entrance drag ground was transformed to look like that. So yeah, another example of Forest getting it right off the field. I do still believe it was political manoeuvring all along to posture that they had positive options elsewhere to get the best possible deal on a lease or freehold purchase of the City Ground. And whichever way it's been resolved, credit to all involved, particularly the chairman, because that would have been one of the biggest strategic tasks in his inbox. It looks like it's been accomplished. So good news, but yeah, I told you so. That's same at you personally, Davis.
As Roddy says, do us a favour and hit like, be a big help, and Peter doing my job as well. What about you, Mikey? I guess it's all contingent on the City Ground being developed, because it can't stay as it is. But if it is developed in the next 5 years or so, you're very happy with this news?
I am. I was much less certain than Temps. I thought there was a real chance of them moving. I think if you look at what he's done at Olympiacos, he's significantly changed that whole area, the complex, everything. It looks magnificent. And I think the thought of Marinakis and the family wanting to do something similar for Nottingham was probably there. So I don't know how far the conversations got with Toten or anywhere else, but I was always under the impression that it's a real possibility. But if they had stuck to his guns, and that's right. And even if they just used it as a bit of a bargaining tool to get the best deal, then fair play. And I guess there's nothing wrong with looking at other solutions, is there? You know, there's more people want to come and see the game. The way the rules are going, we have to generate more income. So I guess if I was on that board of people, even I would have said, look, I don't want to leave the City Ground. Of course I don't. But let's at least investigate possibilities. And if that's all they've done, great. But in answer to your question, thank God they've come to this decision, because it does ooze football soul. It wouldn't be the same not playing at the City Ground. And I'm just glad there are options there to develop the stand, which they are doing, the ground, which they are doing. And in the future years, obviously develop that stand and get more people in there. But let's not move from a site which has given us so many amazing memories, and hopefully still will do going forward. So right decision, and I'm relieved more than anything now.
Obviously drop your own opinion in, Kelvin, but do you think the players are bothered by this kind of stuff? I guess Ryan Yates and people who've been around a long time would be, and you know, yourself, you were there now, but does it impact the playing squad at all? Any chat about moving stadium, or are they just all business day to day?
Yeah, of course. I think players like the Ryan Yates of this world, they obviously will be wanting to stay. It'll be a big thing for them, but it won't affect, they're wanting to stay or leave, as in like leave the club because of the moving stadiums. Not at all. I think it's the right decision, but I do honestly think that they would have wanted to move. I think the owner would have looked at that to want. I don't think it was a PR stunt. I think he would have wanted to move on, to get a bigger stadium, because he doesn't have any connections with Forest. Obviously, he owns it now and he has got a connection, but I think he would have been looking at it from a business point of view and seeing it as probably a big opportunity to get a bigger stadium. Thank God they've changed their mind and now they're just going to develop the stadium and they're going to stay. But going back to the players, I think, no, it won't impact the players, to be quite honest with you. I think there's too many players that don't have a connection with Forest anyway. So it wouldn't. And even the players that do, yeah, you want to stay, but, it's not going to impact you staying or you wanting to move just because they're moving stadium. No. But, yeah, as an ex-player and all my family and friends that are Forest fans are absolutely buzzing that they will be staying.
Excellent. Bits to rattle through before we end. I'll just let people know about. We're playing Olympiacos away in August, the usual friendly that we play against them. Steve Rands, the analyst who was here with Steve Cooper, is going to Leicester, according to John Percy in the Telegraph. So Forest get some compensation for him, pretty minimal, I'd imagine, but I'm sure he's done a good job for us. Also joining Cooper's coaching staff, for those who are interested, are Alan Tate, his regular right-hand man, and Danny Alcock, the goalkeeping coach, who I messaged yesterday to see, would you like to come on this podcast? And I guess the answer we know now. Now he's joining Leicester City, so that's a bit of a blow and a waste of time, but not to worry. Finally, the aforementioned Divock Origi, according to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who's an advisor for AC Milan, will now train with the youth along with Fode Balotore. Not sure who he is, but they're not part of the plans. So yeah, 100 plus grand a week train with the youth team. Quite a setback for him, but there you go, after a disappointing season with us. Right, if you haven't already, like I say, do us a favor and hit like and hit subscribe on the video before we get to any other business, and do consider becoming a channel member. We've got a member social coming up on August the 1st. Right, any other business before we go, Michael Temple?
No, got to go and get my hair cut. Pleasure to speak to you, lads. See you all soon.
Yeah, disappear. Mikey, anything from you?
Sorry, I was just setting off guard. I know, just a little bit. No, just two things actually. It's a pleasure being on with Kelvin for the first time. Really enjoyed it. And secondly, I've got my Hartlepool top on today. It's Hartlepool away. So my wife's from Hartlepool. Used to live there for 5 years. They are actually playing Forest B team on, I think it's August the 3rd. So in terms of all the friendlies, the one I'm probably looking forward to most is our academy kids going up to Hartlepool. But no, other than that, it's just good to be back on, Matt. Cheers.
Yeah, good to have you with us. Kelvin, any final words before we depart?
No, just great to meet you as well, Mike. Great to speak to you and stuff. But I made my debut against Hartlepool as well for Notts County. So, yeah, I have a little connection with that as well at Hartlepool's ground, which was good. We lost, but, yeah, I made my debut there. But, other than that, just nice to see you again, Matt, and I'll be on soon, hopefully.
I'm sure you will. I've not been to Hartlepool. I have been to Hartlepool. But I also remember going to like Blythe Spartans and places like that when I was covering non-league games. There's some hostile fans up there. Good fans, obviously. But any memories from that debut? Were they giving you stick, and was it intimidating, or do you not? Are you so in the moment when you're making your debut?
Yeah, I was just so in the moment. I remember coming on at right back, and I was like a burst balloon. I was just running around like a headless chicken, just because I was only 17. So yeah, it was a great moment for me, and I'll always remember. Yeah, it was at Hartlepool, and I remember the pitch it was a great pitch then. I don't know what it's like now, but that was back then. So God knows what it's like. Hopefully, it's still decent.
Oh, I'm sure it is. The pride of North Eastern non-league. There you go, Lynn. Right, we shall leave it there. We'll be back intermittently through the week. I'm trying to plan ahead for next week as well, because it'll be a bit scaled back then, because I'm taking a week off. First week off since October last year. So, yeah, bear with me through the next few days. But good to have people with us, like I say. Mikey, thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Kelvin, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Matt. Always a pleasure, mate.
Certainly is. Certainly is. Right. Have a good day, everyone. And if we don't see you tomorrow, then hopefully we shall see you soon.